second sometimes. I think it's fair to say that my hand isn't necessarily strong enough where I'm really worried about seeing a turn. So I'm surely okay with like bet folding it. I just don't have any problem with bet folding it. However, it does have some showdown value. I don't want to get check raised with a draw. But as you noticed, I bet it at these stakes because I think that it is much more likely that he check calls a draw here than he check raises it. And so that would make it a spot where I would rather just bet fold my hand. If he does check raise it, if he does check raise the flop, I think it's pretty likely he's got something really strong, a set, or he has King X trying to find out where he is or where he's at. But the difference between something like 9 high and King high there is that if he has King X and tries to find out where he's at, I know that I'm way the fuck behind. So even though his range is retarded for not letting me barrel or whatnot and not getting to a later street, it doesn't mean that I necessarily. I'm just going to call him left hand side. I think I'm afraid of some queens and some kings that open there. So we're hoping to play a pot where I make a top pair better kicker than somebody else, or make some sort of a straight or whatnot. Not strong enough hand to check raise for sure in my opinion. So I'm just going to check call. When I check call, it's extremely likely I have a hand like 2 5s, 2 7s. Maybe even ace 3 of hearts or something, so I might get barreled off his board some amount. And this is like pretty close to the top of my range, so I'm going to be looking to basically just induce this entire hand. And that's a good board. That's a good card from the barrel. He may or may not know it. I have no idea. But basically, my plan is to check call 3 here. The river is probably going to be dicey, and what's probably going to end up happening, I'm not a super mind reader or anything, but what's probably going to end up happening is I call the turn, and then I check call the river, and I tell you guys it's the top of my range. And then he ends up happening the nuts or whatever, and I am just like, well, I know he had the nuts, but I called anyways to show you guys how good of a hand reader I am. Top right-hand side, a pretty similar spot to the ace-queen, actually, pretty similar board texture. Again, I'm just not really in a position where, where I need to play. I'm just fine with bet folding. Like there's just no way that I need to play back at this guy. Okay, so here, like, I know I said I was going to check call 3, and again, I even predicted that I was going to check call 3 and knew I had the worst hand. I mean, he has a better hand than me. There's just no doubt he has a better hand than me. I just have no information on him. I think that by his bet size being 40 into 45, there's just no doubt he has a better hand than me. I mean, I would say that he for sure has ace-king, aces, or a set of jacks or something like that. I'm just going to call anyways, though. It's just $40. I can't not call. He definitely has a better hand than me. Yeah, he definitely has a set there a lot. It's just, he completely gave it away. It's amazing that I want to fold like the top hand in my range because it's just bet sizing just really gave it away for me. But at the same time, it's 50-cent dollar, no limit. I mean, I played a 200K pot like an hour ago or something, or less than that. So it's not that I'm not taking it seriously. I think I'm taking it extremely seriously, and I think that I am explaining concepts very well. But so let that be a good. Okay, so this is a semi-interesting spot. We have a gut shot and pretty strong showdown value, and I expect this guy to be bluffing a decent amount on this flop. I just expect that he's just got nothing. He's just going, min raise or whatever. It'll be really interesting to see what he turns up with here because as long as all right, so we're obviously calling the river. He has like queen 10 probably. I mean, I don't really have any honestly. I'm not trying to take away from anything, but I just don't have any comment on that hand. I have no idea what happened on any street. Dude's from Beverly Hills, though. Anyhow, going back to the hand where the guy had a set of 2s, and he clearly had a set of 2s. This is interesting because somebody actually brought this up in I think the Poker Theory forum or one of the small stakes forums, and he was very interested about. Folding the top of your range and exploitability, etc., etc. And I said that it doesn't really exist. That's a great example of a spot where it doesn't really exist. So, despite the fact that I have, so this guy just has air like always. I mean, I know he called, so you're like, well, how did he call with air? But he just has air. And he might have pair plus straight draws. Now I'm going to go for 3 for value. The river bet size is a little bit smaller than normal, and he folds. So he probably had like Jack 10 or Jack 9 or 7x or something like that. Anyways, we just kept charging him though, so I think it was a good spot to keep charging him. Okay, so with the squeeze, I'm going to go ahead and now this guy, I made a 15, the guy made a 20. This guy makes 11, I make a 28. It's a lot better. I think it's a spot where I'm not sure if this guy is plays a lot or if he's a regular. But assuming he's able to squeeze, he might be a regular, and there's a good chance he can get in with the ace and the jack or the ace and the queen. Opening 9-10 suited under the gun is relatively standard. We're going to have a lot of guys not only call with worse suited spades, but also call with some worse 9s, some worse 10s. Our hand plays really good post flop, even against the strongest of hands. It plays okay versus aces. It plays okay versus other stuff. Suited connectors are sort of the exception to the adage that there are huge edges in no limit preflop, which there are, but at the same time, suited connectors play well versus everything. So I'm going to take a flyer and float this flop if he continuation bets it. Since he did not continuation bet it, I think it's a very clear check behind. When he doesn't continuation bet it, I put him on a range of pocket jacks, pocket queens, ace queen, sometimes some sort of a weirdly played ace king. I think it's pretty unlikely that he decides to bet queens or jacks here. So and I think it's almost impossible for him to have air. So I think that every time he bets her, he has ace king or a set of aces or a set of kings, and I would expect that this is no different. Certainly, if I'm him and I'm checking the flop, I'm almost never betting that turn. There's sometimes I would bet it, but if I check the flop, whether it's with something strong or with something weak, regardless, no matter what, when I check the flop, it's a spot where it's a spot where I'm looking to induce bluffs of some sort or give up the lead. I'm not looking to sort of give it up and then take it back like this guy did. There's some hands that I guess I could see doing it with. Actually, a lot of them are kind of air, but at the same time, I just don't think he was necessarily capable of having air. And if he did have air, I think that he would have continuation betted on the flop. It's what most guys that are going to have air as a 3-bet. I think they just go down with the ship and c-bet it. So I think that I'm not sure what kind of sample size we're at with some of these guys. It looks like 40, 50, or 60 hands or something like that. But the pre-flop ranges will start to converge. So it's somewhat interesting at how tight a lot of these guys are playing. 18, 14, 13, 10, 17, 14, and at the left-hand table. Obviously, this guy, Negreanu, he just has whatever the fuck he wants, I guess. I mean, his win rate is 133.57 big blinds per 100, so maybe I should be taking tips from him and not the other way around. Right-hand side, ooh. Okay, so he just makes it 26 right quick after I open. His range is just all better than mine. I mean, I would probably get in with like ace jack or better, pocket 7s or better here. He can have like small pocket pairs. His most likely hand is like ace queen, ace jack. Ace king also possible. Very, very unlikely that it's a strong pocket pair like jacks or better. I think that guys like this Negreanu guy, I think that it's pretty likely that he's just going to go ahead and slow play to my raise or make a really small 3-bet. I mean, like I said, it goes back to the age-old adage of guys bet small, they have something big. Guys bet big, they don't have much at all. But not having much at all doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to have like king 6. I don't think it moves my ace 5 of diamonds ahead of his range, even if I do determine that he doesn't have much at all. And that's important to note too, because if you just decide that a guy has nothing, make sure you know how your nothing does versus his nothing. Because a lot of times you'll be like, oh well, I've said this before in videos too. Oh well, this guy is barreling me, blah blah blah. I don't think he has anything. But is your small pocket pair really okay to stand at the 2 overs and a gut shot? Like, does that really make things okay? It really doesn't. Now, speaking of not having anything, I have the opposite of not having anything. I have something. On the flop, I decided to check because I just don't necessarily. But he's just not going to have anything ever. But the turn there comes a flush draw and a bunch of gut shots. So I think it's a great spot to lead out. And now that he jacks it back up, I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet it. The fact is that he's not